Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Energy Expansion Podcast. I'm really excited to dive into today's episode because over the last several weeks, many of you have been sliding into my DMs, and I'm always so here for that. And these messages have been filled with really beautiful reflections and also heartfelt questions. Questions that bring me into your world, into your heart, what's real, what's true, and what's alive for you right now. And I want to create a mini series, a few podcast episodes that are dedicated to answering your questions. I was originally going to combine several of them into one big episode, but honestly, the more I sat with these questions, the more I realized and sensed that what you're craving is not a quick 2-minute recap. The heart of these questions is, Dani, can you bring me into these specific moments of your journey? Because I'm now having my own version of that experience, is what I was gathering. And so that's exactly what I want to do. One of the questions that we're going to dive into today, and again, this came through in one message, but inside of this one message, there's multiple layers and multiple questions that we're going to answer. This first one was sent to me in the form of a voice note. So I transcribed and summarized this a bit. I'm going to read it through so you can anticipate what we're going to be diving into together, and then we'll take it one piece, one question at a time. Here's what was sent my way. Dani, I know that you've talked about all of the certifications and programs you've taken, but what I really want to hear is the emotional side of your journey, the real behind the scenes of what it felt like when you started your business. I remember when I first met you, so this beautiful soul and I have a connection that goes back probably 7 or 8 years, just for some context for our listeners. When I first met you, I swear you were a realtor, which for some of you, you're going to be like, what? But she's not wrong. I did dip my toe in real estate. Or maybe you were just getting ready to let go of your license to transition into coaching. Why coaching? What was it that made you take the leap? And what were the emotions that you went through? I'm asking because honestly, I can relate so much. I got my coaching certification back in 2016. I built my website. I created my program. I can get into the zone and work nonstop when I'm inspired. But then the next day, it's like I crash. I question if I'm even on the right path, and I find myself slipping back into what feels safe, even though I don't want to do it anymore. It's not that I doubt myself. I just doubt whether I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I guess what I really want to know is, when you were in that season, how did you navigate it? What made you keep going when it would have been easier to stop? Wow. I was teary-eyed when I received this message because I could just feel this woman's heart. And it is indescribable for me to tell you how much it means to me, knowing that you all know that I'm a safe space, that you can come share anything with me. And I'm keeping this completely anonymous. And so if you're listening in right now and you're like, Dani, will you create a podcast episode for me? The answer is yes. Let me know where you're at, because first and foremost, whatever you're navigating right now, the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads, the beautiful, the ugly, everything in between, you're not the only one going through that. There's a really good chance that, hello, your girl Dani has experienced something similar. And there's also an even higher likelihood that there are people who are listening in. There are people who are part of our, what we lovingly call our DKC Soul Fam, who are in a very similar position. And so send me your questions. Let me know where you're at, where you're wanting support. And I'm so happy to do what we're doing today by creating these episodes. So I want to dive into this. And really, the request is, Dani, take me back to the beginning. So I will go ahead and do that. And I'll do my best to bring you into the emotional side. And I say do my best because I am not going to hold anything back from you. And also, if I'm being completely honest, that was 11 years ago. I've actually been coaching for a little more than 11 years, but I left my full-time job exactly 11 years ago. It was September of 2014. So like 11 years and 1 month down to a T. And that still blows my mind that was over a decade ago. And standing here today, I feel like I have to give myself a not so little pat on the back because this really does feel like a big freaking deal. I don't know the exact statistics, but I've heard it and I've read it in different places that most businesses don't make it past 2 years. This goes for any and all businesses. This goes for brick and mortar businesses. This goes for online businesses. This is not just the coaching industry. This is in and out of every industry you can imagine, that starting a new business is no joke. And so most people don't make it past 2 years. If you make it past 2 years, most people are their businesses, and it's not the people, but it's the business. The business doesn't make it past 5 years. It's very, very rare. And so here we are today, 11 years later, still growing, still expanding, still evolving. And I'm so excited to take you into this. And so going back to the version of me who, I was going to say deep down, who didn't know that any of this would work. But the truth of the matter is, I did. I was absolutely terrified. There were pockets of doubt and uncertainty, right? I don't have a crystal ball and you don't. But there's a part of me and there's a part of you that believes that your success is inevitable. There's a part of you, and I want you to tap into this part of you right now, who no matter what you go through, you always make it out on top. You always land on both feet. You always come out stronger and better and bolder. And it might not always feel like that, especially if you're going through it. And, ever since, I hate even bringing this into the space because it was so long ago, but it's so true. I feel like ever since 2020, life has never been the same. And I feel like there is an extra sense of heaviness and darkness and hopelessness and defeat for so many different reasons. And I really want to invite you to honor whatever you're feeling. And despite everything that we went through as a global community, there is a part of you that can tap into the one who knows that you were meant for more, the one who knows that you can do this, the one who shows up even when she doesn't want to, right? We take breaks, we can take a nap, we can walk away from whatever project we're working on and literally go for a walk, get out in the sunshine. But I have gotten very deeply connected to that part of me. And that part of me has always existed. Again, it started out as a mustard seed. I feel like that's like a biblical spiritual reference, but a mustard seed is teeny tiny, maybe even microscopic. But if you can have a mustard seed worth of faith and belief, you can literally do anything. All right, love, real quick pause because I have to tell you about something that is truly life-changing. If you've been in my world for any amount of time, then there is a 99.9% chance that you have heard me talk about Energy Expansion Academy, which is my signature group coaching program where I teach the exact tools, rituals, mindset shifts that helped me create a life that goes beyond my wildest dreams and has transformed the lives of hundreds of women that I've had the honor of serving. And for the first time ever, it is now available as a self-paced experience. That means you get to move through this powerful transformation on your own terms, in your own timing, and in full alignment with your life. This is for the woman who's ready to shift her energy, elevate her mindset, and finally become the most confident, fulfilled, and successful version of herself. without the hustle, without the overwhelm, and without the second guessing. If you've been feeling the nudge to join us inside of EEA, then this, my love, is your sign. You'll find the link in the show notes or just DM me EEA on Instagram and I'll personally send it your way. Now, let's get back to the episode that you came for. I was not without fear. I was not without doubt. I definitely dabbled with aspects of burnout, but I was always able to summon the one within, the one who knew deep down, the one who had been through hell and back many, many times, even at a young age. I started my coaching business when I was 26. I got my very first of many coaching certifications when I was 26 years old. And that's really young. It's so young that I even had people who I looked up to and admired who were older than me, who had a lot more life experience than me, who were not super supportive. They were really confused by what I was doing. Think about this, 12 years ago, which is like technically truly when I got started, the coaching industry was not what it is now. Coaching is a lot more mainstream. A lot of people are way more open to it. A lot of people know about it. So many more people are invested in coaching than over a decade ago. And so a lot of people around me were very confused and they didn't get what I was doing. And I want to believe that family and friends and loved ones were coming from a place of love, right? Sometimes love can look like, not in my world, this is not how I love my people, but people can project their fear onto us when they love us, when they're worried about us, and when they ultimately want what is best for us. And so I was getting a lot of that coming at me. I was getting important people in my life looking me dead in the eye and saying, this actually happened. What makes you think you know enough about life to help other people with theirs? And I remember feeling something inside of me want to die, want to cry, want to run away. Something inside of me felt shaken and I didn't stop. And that was one of many, many examples. I love my husband so much. We've been married for 14 years, together for 15 years. So he's literally been by my side and he's been wonderfully supportive in his own way. I'm so grateful. And I would not have been able to start my business without him by my side. And I know that not everyone else has that luxury. At this point now, my business is a gigantic contributing factor to our life, our family, our mortgage, our car payments, all of the things. When it comes to what my business does and provides for our family, it is massive. And my husband and I are both very grateful for that. But I'm bringing this up because even the person who I had chosen to share my life with, there were a lot of things that he didn't understand. And so I completely get it when it comes to the emotional side of this and not feeling supported, not feeling seen, not feeling gotten, and how scary and confronting that can be. That was just one of the many threads that I danced with around that. And there's something, it's a little cliche, but it's so true and it's so powerful. It is not anyone else's job to understand your mission and your call. It is only your job to understand it and to breathe life into it. I once saw something that said, your life's calling, AKA the work that God has put you on this place to do. Yeah, that wasn't a conference call. And that's great. If it did feel like yours was a conference call, that's great if you have a board of directors and a huge team. But I know that I didn't. And I kind of danced with different size teams over the years. Right now, I have a pretty small team, a lean team, as I would call it. In the past, I've had upwards of 5 team members. And so there's been different seasons of business. And so it's really great when you have all these other people. But a lot of times, especially if you're just getting started, that's not the case. You don't have the luxury of that. And so you're wearing all of the hats, including being your biggest fan, your biggest cheerleader. And some days that's really easy to do, and other days, not so much. Some of the other emotional aspects of the early years of my business was feeling like I was doing so much. I was doing all of the right things and I wasn't seeing the results. I feel like that's pretty indicative of any worthwhile journey. I'm not saying that's a reason to stop, but what ends up happening is that can create a flood of questions. Like, is this actually going to work? Is this viable? Am I capable of this? Even if you see other people doing it, and I always like to say, let other people who you look up to or are further along on their journey, and maybe their journey is similar to a journey that you feel inspired to go on, use them as possibility portals. When you see a woman crushing it at something you want to be wildly successful at and you're just not yet, that's okay. Send waves from your heart to her heart, waves of gratitude and celebration and reverence. And thank you, thank you, thank you for leading the way. Thank you for going first. Thank you for showing me what's possible. That was actually, I wasn't even planning on going here with this, but that was a big part of my journey. If I'm being completely honest, I would see women rocking it in coaching really early on in my journey. And I would have this ping, like this feeling, this ping of envy in my solar plexus, which is interesting. Your solar plexus is your power center. It's right in between like your heart and your womb space, right at the, like, I'm touching mine right now, but this is audio, so you can't see it, kind of like right at the bottom of your rib cage, your upper abdomen. But your solar plexus is your power center. That's where your confidence lives, your sense of self-esteem. And every time I saw a woman doing something I wanted to do, I would feel a little ping of sadness, a little ping of jealousy and envy, and this thought of like, well, why her and why not me? And what I realized is every time I did that, and this is where a lot of the energetics comes into play. And you all know this is a huge part of the work I do. When I was learning about the whole world of energetics, I learned very quickly, I realized, oh, that's actually working against me. Every time I unconsciously, unknowingly, unintentionally, I wasn't doing it on purpose. It was like an immediate gut response that was happening. Every time I do that, I pit myself against another woman who's I've deemed is more successful as me. And here's the truth. No one actually knows. No one knows behind the scenes what's actually going on. There's probably so many women who at the beginning phases and years of my business, I felt envy towards. And if I were to go back in time, I would have never in a million years wanted to trade places with that person for, tons of different reasons. And so, you know better, you do better. But as I really dug into the realm of energetics, I realized the most powerful thing I could do was actually celebrate those women, thank those women. And sometimes it would literally look like on an actual social media post when they were sharing something really awesome, it would look like me typing in a comment or sending them a message. And sometimes it was also just me taking a minute to close my eyes, place my hand over my heart, breathe in their success as if it was my own, and then exhale waves of love and gratitude towards them. And that was a really big thing. That shifted for me, starting to see other people as a possibility portal, especially when I was questioning myself. If she can do it, there's no reason why I can't figure this out. And then part of why I was sharing that originally was those questions of, is this really going to work? Can I really do this? Do I have what it takes? Those were the moments where I was the closest to giving up. And I have to tell you, I never really got that close to giving up. When I first started, I haven't shared this story in a really long time. I quit my full-time job and I was working as a district manager, high-level leadership for a chain of spas and salons. And as I'm sharing this, I'm realizing how multi-layered and dynamic this is. And I got to bring in the real estate piece in just a minute. And I decided to leave my job. The reason, this was part of the question here, the reason I ultimately wanted to leave was because I had had my first of now 3 babies. So my first daughter was born, and that forever changed the trajectory of my life. And if you're a mom, you get it. You know what I mean. I knew intellectually that it was going to, but I never could have imagined how much needed to shift as soon as humanly possible. I thought I was golden. I really didn't think that my path specifically around work, career, and life purpose was going to shift that much, but it did. So I was working for a company that I loved. And to this day, I love and adore this company so much. And I was in a role that I loved a lot. I loved the people that I worked for. I loved the company, the leaders, the brand, the mission, the services we provided, all of it. I loved the employees that I got to show up for and lead. And a part of me thought I was going to do that forever. In fact, before I gave birth to my first daughter, I have 2 daughters and a son. My husband and I even sat down with one of the owners of the company who had taken stake in the franchise, and we sat down and looked at buying our own. My husband was really gung-ho because I was really good at what I did there, and he could see us being really successful. But something I didn't know at the time, it was for sure my intuition. I didn't have the words. I didn't have the awareness. Something in my intuition told me this is not the path for you. And I'm a sacral being. So what I mean by that is in human design, which is a tool that I love, I'm obsessed with. I'm a 1-3 sacral manifesting generator. And when you're a sacral being, you're meant to make decisions from your body, specifically from your sacral chakra, which is associated with your gut, right? That's where the saying, what would your gut say? So for me, that's applicable. What would your gut say is not applicable for everybody because that might not actually be the way that you're meant to make decisions. And so being a sacral being can sometimes be tricky, especially when you're married to someone who's very, very analytical and detail oriented, because I am a feeler. I go off of senses when my husband goes off of fact and intellect and information. One of the many things that we are like polar opposites in, which is pretty much everything. And it works really beautifully for us. I love our dynamic. And so when I said, this is not what we're supposed to do, and he was like, can you tell me why? I was like, I just know. And I can't put words to my knowing, but I just know. Do you feel that way? Please, my love, if you are wired similarly to me, and you don't yet trust your knowing, please, for the love of everything, learn to trust that knowing. That has probably been single-handedly one of the greatest gifts I could ever give myself, not needing to overanalyze or rationalize or even have facts and data. Facts and data are great. I love them when they're available. And also that feeling I get in my body is so real. So that was a big intuitive no. And then I just thought I was going to continue working in leadership. I had no intention of starting my own business. And that's another funny thing. I feel like there's this common story around entrepreneurs and a lot of entrepreneurs feeling like I could never work for anybody else. And I came out of my mother's womb with all of these business ideas and like just knowing in the fibers of their DNA that they were born to be an entrepreneur. Fam, that was not me at all. I had no desire to be an entrepreneur. I went to school for business management because I wanted to be a leader within someone else's business. And that grew even more so when I was high up in leadership for someone else's business. I got to see the nitty-gritty behind the scenes of what it takes to run a business, what it takes to make enough money to make payroll, and like what happens when there's not enough money to make payroll. And I remember thinking, I never want to do this, which is so funny because here we are, 12 years of coaching, 11 years of being a full-time business owner. This is our seventh consecutive six-figure year. My business has generated nearly $2 million since I started. And again, I've done this with a very lean team. I did a majority of that as a literal solopreneur. I recommend that if you can hire support and have help, go ahead and do that. And also, you can do extraordinary things, things that go beyond whatever you could have imagined, dreamed of on your own. Like, again, going back to when you summon that one within you, when you summon the one who's tapped in, tuned in to unshakable faith, who's so rooted in the vision, even when the vision feels blurry, but you're so rooted into the experience of, I know that if I put all of my energy and effort into this and I put one foot in front of the other and I go where I am divinely guided and I take big, bold, aligned action on a freaking daily basis, then wherever I end up is going to be extraordinary. When you tap into that version of you in my world, we call this let her lead. One of our Energy Expansion Academy, and really, like, she's one of our graduates, she's one of our alumni, and she's been a part of our DKC Soul family for a really long time, for probably 8 or 9 years. She recently got a tattoo that says let her lead, and we talk about getting these matching tattoos. That's how big of a deal this is, this thing that I'm referring to. And so when you tap into that version of you, literally anything is possible. It's so crazy just thinking about how I didn't want to come near entrepreneurship with a 10-foot pole. I would run the other direction, and I'm just in complete awe of what we've created because of my ability to tap into that version of me, my ability to sit with the fears, to be with the emotions that come up and move through them, to remember that not every thought I think is absolute truth, right? And I can think a thought that's not very supportive. I can think a thought that's rooted in fear and doubt and uncertainty and disbelief, and notice that, and then choose new thoughts, right? And I'm sharing all of these pieces with you because you can do this too. You can train yourself to do this. And if you want help training yourself to do this, please let me know because I can help you. This is literally what I have dedicated my entire life to. These are things that I do day in and day out with my clients. These are things that I teach my children. It's so fun now to have my kids right now, their ages are 12, 10, and 3.5. So my 3.5-year-old, he's a little younger, but my older girls, they're 10 and 12. There are so many instances now. We're talking 7th grade, so middle school, and then 4th grade. There are so many things that come up that they navigate in their sweet little preteen lives on a daily basis where I can weave in. I'm not sitting there trying to be their coach, but I'm sharing these life-changing tools with them the same way that I'm sharing them with you. So there's that. I digress. I'm having so much fun as this podcast episode is unfolding because I'm seeing this metaphor of this beautiful path that we're walking on together as I'm taking you through this. And then we sort of veer off the path on these fun, very necessary, very valuable side quests. And so I opted not to buy into the franchise, although it was something my husband really wanted, gave birth to my daughter, and instantly realized that speaking of the analogy of the path, the path ahead of me had to look very different. I was literally going to have to completely get off of that path and carve a brand new one. For various reasons, I instantly felt disconnected from the work that we did. Again, it was a chain of spas and salons. And so what once felt really fun around having people look bronzed and beautiful and tanned and toned and whiter teeth and better skin and a snatched waist, like I loved all of those things. But upon becoming a mom, I was like, okay, if I am going to hand my baby over, which I did, I think she was 8 weeks old. I did not have maternity leave. That was not something I had. So I did whatever you do through the government, which I couldn't do for very long because we needed my paycheck. We've always needed my paycheck, just to be perfectly clear. There's no trust fund. There's no something else to tap into. Me making money has always been a crucial part of this journey. And so I knew that if I was going to need to bring in money and I was going to hand my baby over to a childcare provider, I had to do work that actually felt like it was meaningful. I had to feel connected, which this feels important because the woman who sent over this question in the form of a voice note, this is part of what I hear her speaking to. And so many of the women that I served over the years can probably relate to this of like, I'm doing work that I'm okay at, I could do, but it's slowly sucking the life and the soul out of me. So I knew that I had to get my butt into gear really, really quickly. I was able to leave my full-time job in just over 12 months. It was probably 12 months to a T. I just had this realization from the minute I handed my baby over. She was born in July, August, September. Yep, I probably handed her over to someone else in September, October of that year, and the following September was my last day of work. So it took me a year. It took me a year to figure out what I was going to do and to officially start the business. And now going into the transition, this feels important to the question that was asked because literally it was like, why? Why did you transition into coaching? A big part of my job as a district manager was quite literally coaching, was sitting down with entire teams of employees, sitting down with people on an individual level. It was goal setting. It was acknowledging them. It was celebrating them. It was getting to the heart of why these goals mattered, both inside of the business. What are your sales goals? What are your numbers? What does that look like on a daily basis? Literally having people set goals and then break them down. And then I was helping them stay accountable and I was checking in and I was encouraging. And I was also a manager and a leader who deeply cared about what was happening outside of the business. I wanted to know what they were going to be bringing into work that day. I wanted context around what was happening in their heads or in their hearts. The biggest part of my job really was coaching. And so when I knew that I needed to leave my job, I coached myself through this. I didn't know it at the time. It's all been highly intuitive. I grabbed a piece of blank journal paper and I wrote down all of the different things that I was interested in. At the very top of the list, funny enough, was becoming a life coach. And also right underneath that was real estate. I was interested in both of those things. And I had had some conversations with people who were leaders and owners within different coaching certifications. I got references. I talked to people who had been through said coaching certifications. Again, fam, this was 10 years ago. This was not mainstream at all. What we have access to today is so incredible. And I'm so inspired by what the coaching industry has become. And I'd also talked to someone who I love and admire so much, who's a very successful realtor. I was kind of going back and forth. I was leaning towards coaching, but again, I was really scared because I knew that I wasn't going to have the full support of a lot of people in my life because no one really knew what that was. And the thing that I love about a lot of real estate is realtors understand the importance of personal and professional development. Like they understand, for the most part, all the realtors I know, that their success is dependent on how successful they are as a human being, right? It's not just like how many leads you call and how many listings you get and how many open houses, like all of that, yes. And also there's this element of understanding excellence and self-leadership. So I talked to a really successful realtor. Again, this is someone I love, I admire, I look up to, I always have, I always will. And she said, Dani, you're a coach. Go all in on coaching. That's who you are. That's what I see for you. And so that was ultimately it. I felt like I knew that was what the path I wanted to go down, and a little external nudge from someone who I love and admire made a world of a difference. And so I embarked on that journey, and I already shared with you, people not understanding it and me putting in a lot of time and a lot of energy and wondering like, is this actually going to work? Can I actually do this? And I did do it. By the time I left my job, I had a few clients. It wasn't enough to replace my full-time income, but I knew that I needed to give myself a little bit of space and time to build up to that point. And there were a lot of tough months. It was a lot of, I don't even want to say feast and famine. That's a term often used when we're describing our relationship to money, where there's like a lot of money comes in and then no money at all. It was mostly little bit of famine, like little bit, I had a good month, or like a lot of famine, like I had a really bad month. So I danced in that for about a year. That first year of coaching, I made a whopping $11,000, which on one end is like, yeah, go you, Dani. Look at what we did, $11,000. And also, there was this very real realization of like, I could have made more working as a part-time barista at Starbucks. That didn't feel good. My second year, I doubled that and we closed out. It was just shy of $25,000. Again, that did not replace my full-time income. It took me about 3 to 4 years to be able to replace my full-time income. And I did that with very little support and I was winging it a lot of the time. And at this time, I didn't have full-time childcare. So I also had a kid with me at home. I was not leveraging social media and networking events the way that I would later realize would serve me in a big way. All of the ways that would help me break through $50,000 a year that would ultimately replace what my full-time income was. So it wasn't a ton. But again, remember, I was in my early 20s. So $50K a year was pretty good. And so when I crossed that, it was then we were like at $80,000 for 2 years. And then we finally broke through to over $100,000. And that's where we've been sitting. And so it was this really beautiful progression. And I want to remind you that my story is my story and my journey. And yours is not meant to look the same. I want to say right out of the gates, for those of you who have been at this for a while longer and you're wanting to leave your full-time job, I know with absolute certainty that it is possible for you to, if you go all in, for this particular person who messaged me, it's coaching. For someone else listening, it might be something else. If you really go all in and you believe wholeheartedly in your inevitable success, it doesn't have to take you 5 or 6 years to get to 6 figures. I feel like in this day and age, that's a more like required income to survive these days, especially if you are a single income household. I feel like if you're sharing that responsibility with someone else, might not feel like as much pressure. But I know countless people who have come out of the gates in the recent years who have gone all in on whatever that new venture is, and in that first year are wildly successful, create results that go beyond anything that they ever could have dreamed of, 6 figures and beyond. So I wanted to share aspects of my story with you. And we're not done just yet, but I wanted to pause there because I don't want someone to hear my story. I feel like someone could hear my story, and depending on where you are, you might feel like, oh my gosh, this is so inspiring. Like, this is exactly what I needed. And I hope that's how you feel. And you might also listen and think, oh my gosh, Dani, it took you 4 years to get to, like, 4 years of consistent work to get to, $80,000 a year, or 3 years to replace your full-time income. Like, I don't have that much time. That's okay. You get to create whatever story, whatever reality, whatever future that is for you. And the way that mine unfolded was perfect and absolutely right for me. Now, some of you may be wondering, hold up a minute. If that's how you got started, what is this whole little real estate situation? Yes, I did a little dance with real estate in my, I want to say my 3rd or 4th year of coaching. I was coming out of a business partnership. And a business partnership works really, really well for me. It's so funny because at the time of this recording, DKC, which is my brand, Dani Kenney Coaching, on its own is a 6-figure business. And also, I love partnership. I love community. I am a 2 in the Enneagram, and the archetype of a 2 is the helper. I really like being on a team. I really like working in community. And so there's been several stints in my coaching career where I've partnered with different people and different companies and organizations as a way to serve and create extra income. I love that. There is no shame in that, by the way. If you are wanting to start, whether it's coaching or something else, start a business, start a side hustle, whatever you want to call it, and you have something else going on simultaneously, there is no shame in that. I want you to own that loud and proud. And I'm sharing this with you because I didn't always do that. When I was doing like freelance coaching here or there or for this company, I carried a little bit of shame. Like, this must mean that my business isn't doing good enough. And now I'm like, F that. I know how I operate best, and I'm creating environments and situations, not even creating, like manifesting insane opportunities that are wildly aligned. So a few years into my coaching business, I had partnered with another coach who is a very dear friend of mine. We were both moms in similar seasons, similar and also different. She had kids who were older than me, but she also had a little one. My oldest was the age of her little one. We were both married. A lot of the things that we were navigating and struggling with were similar. The things that we wanted to serve people with were similar. So we had created a group coaching program, and I simultaneously had my own one-on-one coaching clients. I had my own coaching programs, but we had partnered to do this really great thing. And we had partnered for 2 years, and we made a decent amount of money together. And it started there about, I want to say it was 2 years in, it just started to feel misaligned. Like, it wasn't the thing that we were supposed to be doing. And right as that was starting to come to an end, a family friend of ours who was super successful in real estate. We were living in the Bay Area at the time. She was growing her real estate business and was wanting to bring on a team. I had never done real estate. I had never been on a real estate team. She had all of her success she had created single-handedly. She had never had, in this case, if you know the industry, she wanted to have buyer's agents. So I did. I got my license and I partnered with her. I did it, you guys, for less than a year. I partnered with her as a buyer's agent, and I really didn't enjoy it for a lot of different reasons. It just felt really misaligned for me personally. And I want to say, I have so many amazing humans in my life who are very successful and so passionate about lots of different things in the real estate industry. I have, from the get-go, from day one, I have attracted a lot of people in real estate, and I am obsessed with them, and I love it. And I think that there is so much opportunity and so many amazing things when it comes to real estate. And also, what I learned was, like, it just wasn't for me. It didn't feel right for me. And it made me realize, sometimes it's almost like the grass is greener kind of a situation, where sometimes you need a situation to happen where you experience contrast. I've been talking about this with my clients a lot, the fact that contrast brings clarity. And so sometimes we need to put ourselves in a different situation so that we can feel like, oh my gosh, yes, this is so much better than I ever could have imagined. Or like, I really love this and this is the right thing for me. Or sometimes it's, in my case, I am so grateful for that year that I had working in real estate. I learned so much. I met so many amazing people. And every day that I went to do real estate, the more I was like, I understand that my calling in this life is coaching. It made it clearer than ever. And so again, I'm so grateful for that period of time for so many reasons. And it just wasn't the right fit for me. A big part of it was honestly the team that I joined, the leadership. There was a lot of that was not aligned. If I had done it on my own, I might feel very, very differently about that experience. But the unique path that I went down had me know after a year, this is not for me. And it really reignited my passion for coaching. Ever since then, earlier, one of the questions was around the theme or the topic of like stopping. How do you keep going when you want to stop or when you want to quit? Me dipping my toe in real estate was not me quitting coaching. I actually knew that I wasn't going to quit coaching. And that was honestly part of the problem. The individual who I had partnered with felt like my coaching was a bit of a conflict of interest. And I think that stirred up something in me and it created a bit of a disconnect between us because I'd made it very clear from the get-go that I was not going to walk away from my coaching business. And ultimately, it felt like that was what was being asked of me. Again, one of the reasons why it didn't work and why it was very easy for me to walk away from that. Me dipping my toe in real estate was not me quitting. It was me exploring something else. Me partnering with other coaching organizations over the years, it was never about quitting. Again, the contrast piece, something else that feels important is, and I opened up this loop, but I didn't close it. I didn't really bring you into it. I had left my job, and right after I left my job, I was filled with panic. So much panic. The fear, the doubt, the overwhelm, the unbelief in myself and my ability was higher than I think it had ever been. And so I was doing this very silly thing that I don't recommend anyone does. Oh my gosh. I have not shared this. I think I said that when I opened up the loop to this story earlier. I have not shared this story in so long, and this is going to be comical and really helpful and healing for some of you to hear. I left my job and I was in a state of emotional and energetic free fall, not in a good place, completely spinning out. What have I done? I've made a huge mistake. The distrust, the untrust with myself, with God, with life was just astronomical. And so I spent half of my time each day attempting, I use that word loosely. I was really not giving my coaching business a chance. I was attempting to build my coaching business in air quotations. And the other half of the day, I was on job searching sites like Craigslist and Indeed. And I was applying for jobs. That's how much I didn't believe in the very beginning. I was like pretending that I believed, but I didn't. And I was spending a lot of time going to job interviews because I just felt, oh my gosh, I forgot about this part of my story. Yeah, I really didn't see it for myself. And I think I had really latched into all of the things that I'd shared with you earlier about like not wanting to be a business owner and the immense fear and the pressure that can come with that. And so I was going to job interviews and I was getting second interviews. This is another example of contrast brings clarity. And I ended up getting a really insanely amazing job offer. I feel bad for wasting their time, but my soul needed to go through this process. I was wasting their time. I use that loosely, and I was wasting my time, which when we really zoom out and we look at this from an energetic and spiritual level, no time was wasted, right? All of it happened exactly as it was meant to. It was perfect and divinely guided. A part of me did waste a lot of time. I could have been going all in on my coaching business, but instead I was wobbly. I was on the fence. I was back and forth. I was one toe in and one toe out kind of a situation. And I ended up getting an insanely amazing job offer. I don't even think I told my husband about it. I don't think my husband knew that I was doing what I was doing. Like this was something I was doing in secret because the fear was so massive. So I got this insane job offer, making way more money than I was at my full-time district manager job that I had just left. The benefits were amazing. I didn't have benefits at my other job, and the work schedule was so easy. And even that, like this carrot, this dangling carrot called amazing, shiny opportunity in front of me, as soon as I saw the job offer, my heart sank into my stomach. And I knew I can't do this. I can't not go all in on coaching and building my own business. And that internal experience was so massive and visceral and undeniable that after that happened, I turned down that offer and I was like, okay, I'm going to go all in on this. And this was honestly within that like first year of leaving my job on it, probably the first 6 months. What I want to invite you into is dancing with the contrast. You listening right now, there's probably an area of your life. Maybe it's work, maybe it's purpose, maybe it's career. All of those things are intertwined, but they can look a little bit different. Maybe it's health, partnership, or marriage. Maybe it's finances. It could be anything, any area of life where there's contrast. What does that mean? Contrast is typically when we know when something feels really, really good, and then we know when it doesn't. We know contrast is light versus dark. I don't want to label things too much, but like good versus bad. I'm sure you get the essence of what I'm speaking about here. And so there are moments when things are going really good and then they're not. That creates contrast. And we get to pause and we get to look at that and we get to ask, okay, what is the root of this contrast? What is causing this? What role am I playing in this? What actions can I take? And, or on the flip side, we can be in a season of life or just some area of life where things are not good, where we don't like how they feel. And then we take accountability. We take radical responsibility. We do things a little bit differently or very differently, and we create a situation that feels much better. And we can look back in hindsight and go, okay, I see. I see what was working. I see wasn't working. I see what's aligned. I see what I like. I see what I don't like. And so this applies to like any and all of the things. And remember, this conversation is on the coattails of the topic around quitting, giving up. What made you keep going when it would have been easier to stop? And there have been moments in the last few years, I think these are very human moments, where something in business feels really, really hard. And I'll have a thought like, oh my gosh, it would just be so much easier to work for someone else, to go get a job, to go get a 9 to 5, to clock in, to clock out, to have someone tell me what to do. I literally thought that, and I'm sure honestly said that out loud. And the minute I sit with that for honestly 10 seconds, it's not very long, in my body, I cringe, I contract, I tighten up, and it's like, no. And here's the thing, there's no shame in working a 9 to 5. There's no shame in working for someone else. Like I said, I love working for other people. I love being on a team. I love partnership. I know that's how I'm wired to thrive. That's the whole point of this, is you knowing what is best for you. You knowing the ways in which you're wired to thrive, the way that you're wired to succeed. Again, this is what I do with my clients. So if you need help with that, reach out to me. I would love to help you. And so for me personally, I actually have let myself many times dance with the idea of stopping, dance with the idea of giving up. And even as I'm saying it out loud right now, I wish you could feel what I'm feeling in my body. It is not good. My body is a hard no to stopping. This is my life's work. One of the things that I am most committed to in this lifetime is becoming the version of me who God placed me on this planet to be. And I feel and know that I am on track with that. And I also know that, and I feel like I'm doing a really good job of that. And I also feel like there's a long way to go. How do I know that? Because the becoming, the evolving, the growth, the healing, the expansion, the aliveness, the lessons are meant to happen up until our final breath. And I'm going to live to be at least 100 years old. So I've got a lot more of all of that, and that excites me. And where I'm going with that is this work feels like my dharma. It feels like my calling. It feels like my purpose. I know it's my dharma. I know it's my calling. I know it's my purpose. And so when I toy with the idea of doing something completely different, it's a hard no in my body. That's why I've never stopped. That's why I keep going. And as we grow and evolve, our desires are going to grow and change and evolve. And the way that we do our life's work is going to grow and change and evolve. The way that I coach and lead and speak now, the way that I show up in my business is very different. There's probably been 5 or 6 different iterations of me as a coach, and I'm growing and evolving every day. And so I just share that because the way that I run my business right now isn't necessarily the way that I'm going to run my business a year from now, 6 months from now, definitely not how I'm going to run my business 5 or 10 years from now. But the heart of the work that I do is the thing that's going to stay consistent. As we start to come to a close here, I think we touched on a lot of this. The big request was, what was the emotional side of your journey, Dani? What did that look like? And it looked like every emotion that we can possibly dance with as a human being. It was equal parts exhilarating and terrifying. It was exciting, inspiring, so many moments to this day where I am lit up, tapped in, tuned in, turned on by the work that I do, by the way that I get to serve. And there have been equal bouts and still are moments of anxiety, doubt, uncertainty, second guessing, seasons for it all. And it's all good and it's all right. It's all perfect, the unfolding of it. And the more we can tap into that, the better. If you're listening to this and you're in your own version of the in-between, the messy middle, and fam, if we're being honest, aren't we always in some version of the messy middle? But for me, it looked like, and for the beautiful soul who reached out to me, it looked like one foot in the excitement of the future and her vision and really what she feels like is her purpose. And the other foot is in safety. What's also in playing safe is ego, is fear. I want to invite you to really get rooted in your vision, and not just the vision of your work, your career. That's a big part of what this conversation was about, but the bigger vision of the kind of life that you desire to live, the kind of woman that you desire to step into. And I say step into because I believe that that version of you already exists. She's just waiting for you to decide and to declare and to step into that. And part of being rooted in the vision is being rooted in your why. There is an author, a speaker, he gave a TED Talk that's famous. His name is Simon Sinek, and he talks about, his original body of work, he has lots of stuff circulating out there, lots of brilliant things. It's called It Starts With Why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And in order for other people to buy into the why of what you do, you first have to be really, really clear on that. And your why is going to be the thing, as you probably saw in my story and kind of what we were just talking about in the more recent conversations we were having on this episode. My why is the thing that always yanked me back into, you got to keep going. You can't give up. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So getting anchored into your vision, rooted into your why, really exploring what your relationship with faith is. We talk a lot about faith on this podcast, and if you've listened to other episodes, you have an idea of where I stand and what that looks like for me, and it gets to look completely different for you. But if I didn't have my faith, if I didn't believe that I was created by a God who has a bigger plan for me, a plan that's better than anything I ever could have imagined, it would honestly be really hard for me to continue. And if you're someone who has zero relationship with faith and things are going really, really well for you, I don't mean this sarcastically. I genuinely want you to reach out to me and tell me, because I always say, I don't know how I would do life, how I would do business, how I would do marriage, motherhood, all of the things without my faith, without my connection to God, to Jesus, the Holy Spirit, my own intuition, which to me is connected to my faith, I would crumble. I would be a mess on the ground and nothing would be able to get me off the ground. Like that sounds so dramatic and that also feels very real. And so exploring your relationship to faith, understanding what that looks like, maybe watering your seeds of faith, building your faith, cultivating your faith, growing your faith. Like I said at the very beginning, my faith has grown. My spiritual journey has evolved so much since when I first got started. And I lean on that more than ever and I always leaned on it, but there's more to lean on now. I would definitely recommend tapping into what your faith is. Again, if you don't have faith, if you're not a person of faith, if you don't believe that things are always working out for your good, if you don't believe in some sort of higher power, that life is happening and conspiring on your behalf and things are going really well and you're super happy and joyful, I genuinely am so curious. Not because I necessarily want that, but I just like want to know your perspective. So feel free to share that with me. So getting tapped in, tuned in to vision, into faith. The other thing I really want to invite you into is the energetics of your journey and more than anything, embodiment. There is so much power, and I talked about it a lot at the very beginning and also throughout much of this episode, summoning the one within you who knows. I heard a mantra last week and it stopped me in my tracks and I've been saying it again and again and again. It's on repeat in my mind. I am a woman who knows that she knows. I am a woman who knows that she knows. Gonna like leave that there for a second. Take that and do what you will with that. But there is a version of you right now in this time and space who exists, who knows what's possible, who knows your greatness, who knows your bigness, who is limitless and unstoppable and is attuned to the quantum realm and the quantum reality. And she knows that everything that you could ever desire exists right now. And really, it's a game of, can you align with that version of you? And I'm here to tell you that, yes, you absolutely can. And part of how you align with her is you get deeply acquainted with her. And you ask, what would she do today? What would she say? Where would she go? What action would she take? Inside of Energy Expansion Academy, I have a future self activation. And I recorded it for myself and I listen to it several times a week, right when I wake up first thing in the morning to be reminded of that version of myself. And I've had many of my clients listen to it and they're like, oh my gosh, your vision, Dani, for your life and your business and your family is so similar to mine. And so I have clients who listen to my future self activation, the one I created for Dani, and they use it and they love it. Feel free to let me know if you need a little bit of support with that. You're welcome to join us inside of Energy Expansion Academy. We have our live group coaching program, which is 4 months long. We also have, as you know, I'm sure you've heard about our self-paced experience where you get access to all of this content. Right? If you really want to embody that version of you, you must spend time with her. You must know her intimately. You must be able to tap into her energy day in and day out. You cannot forget her. You cannot leave her in the dust. In fact, you have to put her in front of you so that she can lead. So we've got faith and vision being rooted in your why. We've got energy and embodiment. What would she do today? Who is that version of you? She exists right now in real time. This is quantum science, fam. She exists. We just get to summon her. We get to lean on her. And the last one is support. Don't do it alone if you don't have to, right? Every time that I say yes to myself in the form of hiring support, whether it's coaching, mentorship, community, team members, the ROI, which is return on investment, is always undeniable. It is tenfold. And so those are the things that I want to share with you. Thank you for tuning in to the beautiful soul who asked this question. Thank you for sharing your heart with me. Thank you for curiosity around my journey and for creating such a beautiful opportunity to let so many other people in. It is my deepest desire that this episode reaches you exactly where you're at right now and that you walk away today knowing that you don't have to have it all figured out to move forward. You don't have to feel completely fearless to take the leap, whatever your leap might be. You literally just have to take one aligned step at a time and lean on the trust, lean on faith that clarity is going to come from the movement. And like I said before, when you take big, bold, divinely aligned steps, one after the other on a daily basis, that's the invitation, wherever you end up, whether it's where you thought you'd be, wherever you wanted to be or not, I guarantee that it is going to be absolutely extraordinary. I love you so much. And feel free to message me. Let me know how this episode landed for you. And if you want your own custom episode as we did today, feel free to let me know where you're at, what you're up to, what you're struggling with. And I'm so excited to continue this series that is inspired by you for you.